Hello and welcome to this video. This video is about the process, analyzing a process. Before we go ahead and start, let's talk about the definition of a process. The definition of a process can be defined as a series of independent tasks that transforms an input into output. So basically what we're talking about is we have four basic phases for any process. The first phase is the input, the transformation process, and the output. And there is the fourth phase would be the feedback that goes from the output all the way back to the input. And what we could do, we could provide some examples to help you understand what the process is. Process could be in manufacturing, could be in service, could be informational, basically based on information. So for example, in Honda is transforming steel, plastic, rubbers into cars. Same thing, McDonald's transfer the meat, the potato, the sauces into packaged food. And the Dell transfer the customer orders, which is basically information, into something physical, or maybe could be in consultation business. In consultation business, you could review a process and you provide suggestions. Or maybe in a lawyer, an attorney basically you're not having a physical thing. You could be just a service that you could provide. So a process is anything that you could have an input, you add to this the transformation process, and you will get the output. And there is a feedback coming from the output all the way to the input for continuous improvement. And this is a key for any process. There's no process that is perfect from the first time, and the continuous improvement should be implemented in any process, and keep an eye on room for improvements. So now, why do we need to analyze a process? We need to analyze process to look into inefficient processes or tasks, to spot possible effectiveness improvement tasks. We need to improve the process. This is why we do the analysis. The process analysis is we need to improve it. So we need to look into inefficient process and improve these tasks. We need to look into the value added and then value and then the non-value added. We need to remove the non-value added from the process and keep the value added, because the process the process will be more efficient with a value added activities. Eliminating the non-value added will also improve the process efficiency. We need also to, while we do process analysis, we need to simplify it. There's sometimes when I go to the field and I've been asked by companies to do some consultation for them. The process itself is very complicated, and there's so many inputs coming into the process. And one thing that we do to analyze the process is to simplify it. As long as you are able to simplify a process, you could look closer to the process, and you could remove the non-value added, focus on the value-added processes, and you could make the process efficient. So simplification is number one to me when I go to consult to do some consultation work for a company. There's so many people, they don't exactly understand the process. And once you create the flow chart, in which we will be talking about it in just a second, you will be giving them an idea on how the process look like, what's the flow of the process, and you give them step by step. Once you simplify it, you can improve it, because you are able to understand it now. And then once you understand the process, you can improve it. The last point here on this slide is to add some technology. Of course, the technology will add a lot to the process. So sometimes let's take this example about the inventory management. Inventory management used to be, in the past, is using a paper and pencil, and you go on and count how many boxes and how many items in your inventory. However, these days there's more advanced technologies that you even don't have to go to the inventory place itself, to the storage area. All you need to do is an ERP, enterprise resource planning system, where we'll calculate how many items lift into your storage area, and based on that, you could promise a customer on some items that you will deliver to them. So technology is another way to another reason why we do a process analysis. Uh, so some of the things that we need to look into this, into the process analysis, is questions. We have to ask these questions, and this will help you to better analyze the process. These are optionals, but I think it will help you to better understand the situation. Is the more you understand the situation, the better you will come with improvement, with solutions for these companies. So some of these questions could be, how will does the process work? What's the efficiency? This is the first thing you need to know is look into the efficiency of the process. What's the defect rates? What's the throughput rate? How many units we can make? So you have to have some baseline information to basically to use these baseline information for improvement. Number two, are there redundant steps that don't add value? So if there's a non-value added processes, you need to take them out of the process and keep the value added process. Are better results needed? Maybe you're happy with the utilization that you have. Maybe you're happy with the efficiency. In this case, if there's no better result needed, why do you want to improve the process? You could just say, okay, I'm happy with the result. There's no way that we could achieve a better result. So this is there's no need basically for it. So you sometimes we reach to a point where we've done all that we could do to improve the process, and we reach to the point that we cannot improve it at all. The only thing we can improve it is to maybe add another machine. So this is something completely, maybe the machine is too expensive and the company is not willing to pay for that much expense. So you want to stick with what you have. You cannot achieve a better result. You've removed all the non-value added. You streamline all the process. You have a very efficient process. However, in order to improve the capacity of your line, for example, is to add another machine, which is not in the goal and not in the budget of this company. And then you reach a point, say, no more better result can be achieved. Number four, can the same or better result be achieved through the change or modification? Same thing is you need to explore some options and see if there's a better results that can be achieved. And number five, what are the overall goals of refining the process? So what exactly you need to know? Are you trying to have a better quality products? Are you trying to reduce the cycle time? Are you trying to reduce the work in progress? So there's so many things that you need to think about. It is what is your goal? If your goal is to reduce the cycle time and then look into the bottleneck stations and remove these bottleneck stations. However, if your goal is to improve the quality, maybe you should invest in a better machines, or maybe you should buy a better raw material. So there's some goals has to be established first in order to improve the process. So some of the goals that I listed here: decrease the work, better efficiency, decrease cost, effectiveness, manage and promote change, or maybe all of them. These could be something that you could consider in order to set some goals for the process improvement. There are 12 steps for process improvement or process analysis. The first step is to have a name for the process. What is the process that you're doing? Define the process terms. Basically, you want to talk about some of the baseline information. What is the process name? This is number one. How many shifts? How many parts? What's the part name? If there is family product, is this product A in family A or product B in family A? It depends. So you have to define the process terms, and that could include the cycle time, the efficiency. Establish process boundaries, and this is really important because these days we're working parallel. There are so many overlap in the process. So we're borrowing, for example, one machine for multiple process. So you need to identify and establish boundaries. So this will get you a better understanding, and will get you will help you to control the process itself. So if a step is not in that process that you're studying, you should not include it in your flowchart diagram. And identify process actors, who's working on this line, who's what they are doing. You need to identify the actors for in the process. Who's the process owner? Does this process belongs to the manufacturing department or the packaging department? Even though they're both department kind work together, but you still have to have an owner for the process. And all this, why we asking this, why we're doing these tips, because we need to clarify every information about the process. Because if you miss one piece of information, that will get you into the wrong answer and the wrong solution. It will not help you to reach the optimal solution, which is the goal, is to have an optimal solution. Identify stakeholders who is being affected by the process. Stakeholders, everybody involved, including the customers, the manager, the workers themselves, anyone related to that process. This is what we call them, the stakeholder. Describe tasks associated with the process. Now we go in deep into the process, and we need to identify the task, the steps for each process, what we need to do in order to finish this process. Describe decisions associated with the task, with a task. Okay, so what kind of decisions that we need to make in the process? So we have to identify these decisions. Cross-reference, which means that you want to check on the process. You need to better understand. So you don't want to listen into just only one operator. You probably want to listen to multiple operators from different perspectives, not only just the operator perspective. You could maybe take a look into, you could interview the customer, you could interview the manager, you could interview the owner, you could interview a department who works the departments who does some work with that specific department. Arrange tasks in order of importance. So now we need to do is arrange these tasks in which one is the most important, and this will give you an idea on which one you want to focus on. There's so many tasks that maybe teeny tiny tasks that you don't want to focus on it, but what you want to do is to focus on these big tasks that will make the bigger impact. And this is something called 80-20, the Pareto concept. If you took quality assurance with me, but focusing on 20% of these bigger tasks will make an 80% of the change. And this is why we do the arranged task, and we need to find out which one is the most important. Number 11, establish measures and identify additional related information. So now here once we have the task, we need to establish a measure for these tasks and include any additional information that will help us to analyze the process. Number 12, identify areas for improvement within the institutions. Now we have better understanding of the steps for the process. We have the cycle time, we have the value added and non-value added. We have everything we need on one page, on one graph, hopefully the flow chart diagram. And now what you could do, you could look into this picture, you could look into this graph, into this flow chart, and start saying, oh, okay, well, here's a bottleneck. This process takes forever to process these customers' orders. So maybe we should focus on that. So that would be the area for improvements. And of course, these should be aligned with the goals and that's established by the organization. So these are, in short, the summary of 12 process steps that we could use to establish a process. There's a more detailed information about each process, and you could read this, but I'm gonna go ahead and skip it to keep the video short. And what I want to do is go to I'm going to Okay, I'm going to go to focus on this establishing measures, because these are really important. And I want you to be able to establish or understand these measures. What I want you also to do, I want you to search the KPI, key performance index, and we've talked about it in this class. But if you're not familiar with it, and if you have never heard about KPI, go search it and Google it. But KPI, it's basically a measures, key performance index. It's basically the dashboard of your car. Whenever there is something wrong, you will see the light, came out and say, okay, well, be careful, you need to change the oil. It's the same thing here for any process. There's some KPI measures that we use to give us an idea on how the process is going. So for example, you could say, the cycle time or the efficiency should be at least 85%. So if the number dropped at 85%, you will know that there is a problem in your process. You go back and study the process. So establishing measures are important. You want to count the number of transaction task actors, approvals, percentage of tasks allotted to one department or the other. So this is one of the things that you could do. You could do number of transaction, number of approvals needed, percentage of tasks in each process. Number two, time frames. How long will take to complete one task? This is what we call the cycle time and throughput time, and maybe you could do the capacity as well. Number three, what you want to do is you want to look into the things that will help to succeed with the process or the flow of the pieces, such as the people who works on this process, the task, the machine, the work, the paperwork, etc. So anything that will help to accomplish the process. Areas of needed improvements, such as the patient's wish list, interfaces. Number six, additional data needed for the system input, letters, etc. Critical function to keep, function to retain in the current state. So what is the summary of this slide here? What I want to tell you is, again, it's the KPI is important. You need to focus on 3 to 5. Again, the rule of thumb is 3 to 5 key performance indicators to use it as a baseline for your process. And these also can be used to monitor the process. If you did not do well, these lights will come out and say, okay, you need to, study the process. You need to go back to the process and study it, see where's the problem is. All right, now, of course, what would be the result of process analysis is the future continuous improvement. You want to eliminate some of the tasks, you want to simplify, you want to integrate some process together, or maybe you add a technology to automation of the process part. So you want to add some technology or machines to get rid of the traditional paperwork activities. So these are basically what would be the process analysis and how we could look into the process. Now, your role is, what I want from you, I want you to observe a process. You go to the supermarket, the local grocery store that you have, and do the Gemba walk. And the Gemba walk, basically, it's the things that you want to walk in a field. You want to walk in the floor and say, okay, how I could make it better place. What the things that needs to be improved. You go to the grocery store, local grocery store, and see if you could identify the items. Do they need more, signs? Do they need more directions? What's the wait time at the cashiers? If there's a long wait time, why is that? Do you guys have enough cashiers, or maybe they're not using the self checkout? So there's the things that I want you to do based on the process analysis. I want you to go to any local grocery store and start looking at room for improvements, how you could make that place a better place. Maybe not a local grocery store. Maybe if you have a job, an internship or a full-time job, you could maybe start with your area and start saying, okay, well, I'm sitting here in my office, how I could make this office better, and start with something what we call the 5S. It's one of the lean tools. It's start organizing, shine, and follow these 5S in order to have a better workplace. Same thing for Gemba walk. It's you go walk in the floor and you start looking into how I could make this place better, safer, welcoming, improve the efficiency, utilization, remove the non-value added. And once you come back, just write down some of these improvements that can be done. If you want to share it with the manager of the local grocery store, that would be great. Uh, with that said, I am going to stop the video right here, where we could go ahead and continue with another topic, which is the flow chart, which is related to the process analysis. Because once you do the Gemba walk and you look into the process, you need to document this in a chart, in a diagram, in a picture. And this topic, the next video that I will be making, is about the flow chart diagram, and I will share with you some of the process on how to develop a flowchart diagram. I'll see you in another video.